So hi there YouTube, I'm back for tutorial number 2, and in this one I want to show you guys 3 ways that I draw elevation. So I've thought up some names for them. The first one I call a ridge. It's just kind of a hint of elevation or a suggestion. I usually use it on grassy fields, and really I'm just going to show you this one because it's so simple. So, I mean, if you want to draft it, use a pencil, sure, like draw a faint line for the direction you want it to take. And then with your pen, we just do some short lines along the pencil line. And then once the ink's dried, perhaps you can, my ink has not dried as you can see, but you can get rid of some of that pencil. As you can see, this one kind of works as a very gradual elevation. It just varies up the landscape a little bit, but it's not so steep that the Dungeon Master has to worry about calculating height advantages and stuff. It's just for interest's sake. So the next one is really just a variation of this one. I call it the slope. Always start with pencil. I begin by drawing in the top of the slope as a line and vary it up, give it some character, and the bottom of the slope. That's all you need to do in pencil. We're just working out the direction and the thickness and whatnot. Now with kind of a jittery hand, go in with your pen, give it some character as well. We've drawn in our top and bottom of slope, or top and bottom, but really we don't know yet. Now I was trying to think of how to explain this best, because the next step we're going to draw these kind of lines between here, and I thought, you know, it looks kind of like someone's laid out a rope ladder, and we're going to think of these lines as rungs in that rope ladder. Really what that means is that on the inside corners the rungs are going to bunch up, and on the outside they're going to splay outwards. So it's going to look something like this. You can see how, if we pretend this is a rope ladder, the rungs are bunching up on this side, the inside of the curve, and they're splaying on the outside of the curve. And that's what's going to give it more of a three-dimensional look. So if we just follow that, sometimes, you know, you can break the rule just to give it some variation. And we take that to either end of our guidelines, and there you have it. Now another thing with this one, if you want to mark out better which side is the top, I just do some shading near the top. I imagine like there's a slight ridge in the grass or whatever you might have up here, and that's causing like a shadow. It looks a little bit more three-dimensional that way. Another trick for denoting which is the top, which is the bottom, I like to add some rubble, and my pen's inking everywhere again. But here we have some rubble at the bottom, and now we can kind of tell which side's the top, which side's the bottom better. Here's an example map where I've used this method. This is the Rocky Highlands map. You can see there's a number of these slopes just kind of in tiers going downwards. So that is method number 2. 1, 2. Number 3 is the most advanced one, and really I've been practicing a lot myself. It looks like this. This is the map I whipped up yesterday. It's the exterior of the damp mine. And this is the elevation we're going for. As you can see, it's much more rocky, like a cliff face. And I think it's much more organic, interesting to look at. That said, this one does take a fair bit of practice. So to demonstrate that, this is kind of like the version 0.1 of this method. This is the Roaring Falls map, and you can see I've got the same idea going on here, but not nearly enough detail. So to get this kind, we're going to start again with our pencil. We do the top and bottom of the ridge. Get our shape right, and with the pen, go over with a very jittery hand, I like to call it. Now this is important for these ones because the corners and edges of these lines will help us in the next step. So we get those. Now, imagine it again like a rope ladder, because the same thing applies where our lines are going to bunch up at the top or on the inside curves and splay outwards on the outside curves. Now, again, this takes practice and kind of a feel for how rock faces look, but we're really just going to start drawing in some organic rocky looking lines, and that's very bad tutorial speak, because I'm just saying, oh, this is how you draw rocks. Draw a shape that looks like a rock. But I don't know, maybe I wasn't meant for tutorials. I found if you think in triangles or rhomboids, you start thinking like a rock. So I'm just drawing lines between corners and trying to work in some triangles as I go. Okay, so we'll keep doing that. With these larger, like the further apart your two guidelines get, the harder it is to fit in the detail and make it look like a rock face. But just keep working with triangles and straight lines. In fact, I don't always use straight lines. Sometimes I'll throw in a hook like that, just to give it some, I don't know, some randomness. So that is our cliff face. Again, I like to throw in some rubble at the bottom. And I also like to kind of think about just pick out a few of these shapes we've drawn and shade them in. Like this one, we've got like an inside curve, so I imagine that's not going to receive as much sunlight, so I just shade that in, shade in a few of these. Really, you'll be shocked at how many of these don't make any sense at all, but the idea is just to give it some variation, not to be photorealistic. And there's a cliff face. And it's a much better looking cliff face than this cliff face, is it not? The main difference between these two styles is this has triangles, this lacks triangles. I think triangles is the magic recipe for drawing rocks. perhaps. The other thing is this one just has many more, or much more frequent and long shapes. This one just didn't work out, and I knew it as I was drawing it. I was trying to find out what worked and what didn't, and this one didn't work. But this style, let's pretend it links up there. It works much better, and I'm sure in 2 more months I'll be able to make an updated video and show you my new method, or perhaps just explain this one a little better. All that said, that is 3 ways to draw elevation on your maps. One very gradual, one much steeper, and one just a straight up cliff. So let me know what you think, and let me know in the comments what you'd like to see next. This very idea was pulled from the comments of my last video. And of course, please lend me a like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help out the channel. And all the maps you've seen here today are available on my website, 2minutetabletop.com. So I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you next time.